G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 43 of the Sam Panetta Show. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by the wonderful Mrs. Kitty Parker. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Are you nervous?
No, not really. Not really. This reminds me of my time on radio. So I've done radio.
Really?
Yes. So
You
it's
hid
a
that
bit
from me.
different.
You're better at this than me then.
No. Shush you.
Who's Kitty Parker in 30 seconds or less?
Kitty Parker is a change agent. Kitty Parker is the property chick. So I think I'm a born innovator. I'm born to advocate. And I'm somebody that no matter what I'm doing in my life, I'm always striving to evolve, striving to innovate, and striving to deliver the best for those around me. So it's almost like, yep, I'm in property. Place that in the property arena as a buyer's agent, and it kind of says everything.
What was the journey that got you into property where you are today?
Oh, that's the long story. We're going to need like a whole podcast for this. So I don't come from a 30-year background in property. I'm a trained psychologist by trade. I was a homeless teen, high school dropout, single mom, dabbled in the adult industry. So I've probably done everything along the way that people would consider not socially acceptable. But it was a day when I had sold my last business. I won't even get into how I got into business from psychology, but it was actually a financial advisor who said to me, "Have you ever thought of being a buyer's agent?" And I went, "Are you kidding me? I got so many letters after my name. I'm like university guru, whatever. Why would I go into real estate? I'm not a real estate agent." And he said, "You have bought so many properties for yourself along the way. You've assisted my colleagues. You've assisted family and friends. This is what you do, and you have utmost integrity. I absolutely think you'd be great at it. Like, you don't even realize your property's one of your superpowers." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'll just set up a website and I'll do this as a bit of a hobby. Okay, we'll see how it goes." And now we're here today. And I've built something that's nationally recognized, award-winning. I'm looking at expanding into other countries. And this all came from something that I love to do that I saw as not just a hobby, but as just something I'd mastered for myself. And then it became a business without me even realizing. And I think that is the key to my success, but it sounds like for you as well, from what I know with you, that it's not about chasing the money and chasing fame and chasing success. It's about really striving to deliver for your client base or consumers and give back and really be honorable in what you're doing with your serving. And if you nail that and do that right, the rest just flows. The rest comes because people can see your authenticity and they can see that you are genuine in what you do. I don't see myself as a real estate agent. I'm a licensed real estate agent and auctioneer, but I don't really see myself in that way. Like when people say, "I hate real estate agents, they're all like full of I go, "Yeah, I know." And then I'm like, hang on, technically I'm one of those. But does that make sense?
About me? Are they not talking
Yeah,
about
because
me?
I don't see myself in that way. I'm an advocate. I feel like I have a gift and I'm here to give to people and help people on their journey. What about you? I know you've got me as a guest, but from what we've spoken about, it sounds like your purpose and the way you deliver what you do is similar.
Yeah, and I was saying this. I was saying this, and we've got a lot to unpack from that. I've got like 100 questions running through my head, so apologise if I'm glazing over in my mind. I was saying to a couple of the young guys here in the office the other day about working, and I was saying I'll work in the mornings, I'll work all day, I'll go home, I'll work on the weekends, I'll put a barbecue on, and then I'll sit there and I'll do some work. Like, don't you get sick of working? I'm like, no, because it's my life's work that I'm doing here. You know, this is it's gone so much further than being a job or being a business. It's what you're going to be remembered for. You know what I mean? And I think for that we're on the same page. We've got that similarity where you the craft is what you're honing, and the accolades and the rewards and money and everything that comes off the back of it is a byproduct of honing your craft and using 100%. That to serve society. And that's how people should look at work, I think. I feel. Kitty, you've had, and we spoke about this on the phone when we first spoke, where we were sort of unique upbringings, each of us. And I think it builds a lot of character, and it makes for a good story. You know what I mean? But you mentioned a couple of things there that I think probably would have been really tough. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Fire away, Sam. Fire away.
So, homeless, single mother. How old were you? How were these things unraveling in your life?
I had a very dysfunctional family, and I was out of home at about age 14. So I spent a lot of time, say between age 14 and my very early 20s, jumping through like youth services and homeless youth services, refuges, things like that. So I was a homeless young person. Due to that, didn't finish my schooling, etc. And what I think it gave me without realizing, I think of it as my Macgyver superpower. So roll with me with this one. What it means is when you go through really tough survival times in life, you have to tap into being resourceful. And this is not about being resourceful to make money or to do this or that. It's to survive. This is really the bare bones of survival. And you start to tap in to problem solving and how to think outside the box purely for survival. This is about your survival. But you start to become very resourceful, and you start to just think of it a different approach to things. You just think differently. And I have realized I've carried that forward through to my adult life. So what I mean by that is I'll always give something a crack. I'm not scared of failing. I'm not scared of falling. That's not me saying I know everything, but I feel like the world's my oyster. I don't care. Someone says, have you thought of moving into the Asian market and doing business over here and this and that? And for a moment I go, gee, that's a bit scary. I don't know that market. And then I'm like, stuff that. Yeah, let's give it a crack and see how we go. And what that is you feel fear, but you move forward anyway. And I think that is the gift that my problematic upbringing has given me. I'm not better than anyone else, but what I will do is where other people will be scared and they'll be too scared to give something a try and they'll stay in their comfort zone, I'll step forward. So I will constantly try new things. I'll constantly try and grow and progress. And ironically, you end up succeeding. Doesn't mean you don't fail a few times, but you'll end up succeeding because you're trying. So I think when I say my Macgyver kind of superpower, I think of Macgyver, the TV show guy, how he would be stuck in a hairy situation and he'd have like a match, a toothpick, and a paper clip, and somehow he would turn this into, some airplane to fly him out of someplace. So it was like MacGyver. It was like, he had these basic things, but he could construct something out of that that would move him forward. And I see myself in that same way. It's like, give me a couple of little bits, and my survival from my past has taught me resilience and resourcefulness, how to find my way forward and not be scared of failing.
I love this story so much, Kitty.
I hope that made sense.
No, it does. It's like to go through actual, like, real difficulty in life, you build up this pain threshold, right? Where you can tolerate higher levels of pain than someone who hasn't had to endure difficulty. And I think that does serve you well in life and in business, because for what could be a serious issue that could ruin someone's day, for someone who's never had a serious issue, for you it's water off a duck's back.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? You're like, okay, you breeze through it and you push forward, and whether you fail or not, it doesn't matter, but you can tolerate the painfulness of it more than the next person. Is that something that you feel in your day-to-day now?
That's so true.
Yeah.
And if something knocks you, it doesn't mean you don't get knocked, but you can just pick yourself back up and you can get on that horse again and keep going. So you're probably right. You have it's resilience, isn't it? You have a stronger threshold for sitting in discomfort or uncomfortable situations, and you can move through. It's something that has taken me through my adult life, realizing, gee, not everyone has this.
No.
But I didn't realize that. And I go, I think it has come from my childhood and that past. It's like, they're the blessings that, had my childhood and my younger years been more fruitful, I may not be the person I am today. I may not have those qualities. Another one to touch on, I think, you mentioned, like, we talk about resilience and resourcefulness. Another one is, when you're down and out, you realize what really matters in life, what really matters.
Yes.
So I think the thing that I've really done well with in my adult life is no bullshit, no ego. It's not about, I drive this, I live here, that makes me. None of that makes me at all. None of it at all. Who you are as a person inside, your character, and who you are, stripping away every label and bit of material, whatever, that humans can have. Standing there as just a human being, that was my early years. I had nothing. And so I've learned I'm a good person. I have integrity. I care for other people. Like, the person I am and my sense of self is really strong and stable. The other stuff doesn't matter. So I'm not sucked into this shallow kind of chasing power, chasing fame, chasing cars, chasing labels. And the funny thing is, I think people on some level, they see that in other people. So when someone's really authentic and they go, wow, this person is the real deal. She cares. She doesn't care about, wanky stuff. People want to connect with that. They want to connect because it's real. It's human to human. And again, I think that's something from my childhood that I have taken on without realizing. Whereas, other people may have chased the dollar or chased the bright lights. It's so irrelevant to me. I've had business colleagues that have gone, for your brand, you need to win awards, you need to do this and that. And I struggle. Like, a lot of the stuff I've done for my business, I've struggled with personally because I go, I don't need that. I don't need an award. I'm comfortable in myself. I don't need this. And people say, yeah, but it's social proof.
It's not for you. It's for the
not
business.
For me.
Yes,
yeah, it's for the
yes.
business, or it's for other people in the public, so they get to see what you're
Yes.
like. And that's been the hard part for me in business, because I'm just happy being under a rock, doing my thing for my clients. But I realize as a business, you kind of have to be a bit of a show pony. You have to get out there. And I'm not good at that, Sam. What about you? I've done enough talking. I've monopolized this podcast.
I feel like I'm talking to myself with pink hair. Less beard and more pink hair. This is really good. Yeah, I think so. I think there's, like I say it a lot. I say I just want the business to work. Like when we have to make a decision, sometimes when things are going difficult in the business, or we have to have hard conversations with each other and my partners, my ultimate outcome is what is in the best interest of the business. And it touches on the thing with the awards. Is like sometimes you have to do things that it's not your particular character, but it's for the best interest of the business in order to do it. Now, a lot of it looks like beating your own drum, but it just so happens that that's really, really good for a business, is to, to put yourself out there and to do those things. I can see, like, on your LinkedIn profile, it's fantastic. A lot of attention goes on there, and you might not like that. I can see your face screwing up, but fantastic for business. That's actually how we connected. It's actually how we connected. So it works. I was talking to a guy the other day. His name's Dean, and I was talking to him on his podcast, and I gave him a bit of background in my life. And my grandparents immigrated from Italy, and then my parents had me when they were 15, and I got kicked out of high school, and all these not as tough as what you had it. But he said, statistically, Sam, you shouldn't achieve anything in life. Like, statistically, you should fail. That's the thing, and that's what I wanted to ask you, because I was like, you're probably right. Statistically, and probably for yourself, statistically, you're probably not supposed to make it.
Yes.
Was there a point where you were like, you're this young girl and life's super hard on you, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do good here. Was there some sort of trigger point and things changed?
Yes. I'll answer this first, and then can you answer this after me? Like, I want your trigger point.
Yes,
point
absolutely.
Well.
Done.
So mine was, I remember in my early 20s, and I was living in a youth refuge, and there was actually a social worker. And I don't know why I connected with this social worker. Not sure why, but she managed to get on my level. And she was the one that said, you're really bright. You should finish your schooling. And I was like, what? Who cares about school? When you're surviving, the last thing you think of is, let me get an education.
Yeah.
And she was like, I think it will really take you places. And so I actually listened to her, and I enrolled in and finished we'll call it the senior years, like the end of my schooling, all in 1 year. And it was a commitment where you go Monday to Friday. It was something like 8 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon, because you're jam packing like a couple of years of school in 1 year. And then I sat at the end of that year, the equivalent of the HSC.
Okay.
Here, and with people from the equivalent of like 17 and 18-year-olds, but I was my age. But I sat the equivalent of that and aced it.
Nailed it.
I mean, seriously nailed it. And I got into, I'm meaning this, I got into any university I wanted to get into, any course I wanted to get into in university. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to university. Like, this is like, ooh, this is really special. And I didn't know what to do. And funnily enough, I honestly could have gotten into anything. And I chose an arts degree because I'm like, well, that's all I'm good for. And this is where there's that you move forward, you have this success, but there's that constant, oh no, I'm broken, or oh no, I'm just a homeless teen, or I'm just. So the long and the short, I did an arts degree anyway, progressed on, and I've done other degrees, have done well. But it was that moment with that social worker that said, you're really bright, you should do something with this, that was a pivot point for me. And the other pivot point was a survival point with my son when he was young. And literally, I was so far up creek financially and with everything, and no family here, and not knowing how to provide for my son. That was when I clicked into, I'm going to start a business. Here are my 5-year goals. And my 5-year goals were like huge goals. I mean, like, in 5 years, I'm going to have a multi-million-dollar company. I'm going to own this many properties. I'm going to make this much per year. And I lived and breathed that. Like, I mean, I closed that loop every single day for survival. And I nailed that in 3 years.
How good.
3 years. I went from zero to multi-million dollars in earnings. And this is not to go, I'm really good, I made money. It's not that.
It's not about the money.
Not that
it's
at all.
The money's not it. It's the achievement.
It's the achievement.
Yes.
It's knowing that you can go from the place in life, and if you believe and you have that work ethic and you execute and you can. And that when I did that, for me, that was a mega pivot point. From then, I went, I can do anything. I can do anything.
Because
I can set up
to yourself.
a huge multinational. I can do this and this and this, whatever. And you know what? I may not get it right first time. I may fail. I may stuff up. I don't care. Pick myself up and just keep going. So I had those 2 pivot points. One was the social worker and my schooling, and the other one was the business. Probably both of them were linked to survival, but they were just these moments in time where I went, this is what I'm going to do. And I set out to nail it. What about you, Sam? Pivot point.
That's a lot to digest. I've never spoken about this on the podcast. I think
now you are.
Now we have. Here we go. I think when you've got 15-year-old parents, and we're living with my nonna, my grandparents.
Yeah.
And I had like bunk beds with my uncles, and there's not a lot of money to go around.
Yep.
And I remember when I was 8 years old, my parents had a blue one night about money, and I remember listening to it, and I sat there all night. And I just cried. I just cried my eyes out all night. And I made a promise to myself. I said, you're going to have money when you're older.
Yeah.
8 years old. I remember where I was sitting. I remember looking at the bunk bed on top of me. It's like etched. It's like burnt into my soul. And I think I just changed from there. And a lot of my family and stuff say, Sam, when you were a kid, you were all about money. You were a little kid, like no one knew where this had come from. None of us are like this. And it gave me a little bit of grief when I was younger, because I didn't know. I was probably to that side, you know what I mean? But it changed the way I thought. It changed the way I thought, Kitty. Like you were saying, after you had that, like your brain rewired.
Yep.
And when I had made that decision at 8 years old to have money, right? That was a decision. I'm going to have some money. I don't know what I needed money for, Kitty. I was 8 years old. I didn't know what I needed money for.
You know what? It's probably security. It's probably what it represented, that you saw your parents and the struggle and the instability and insecurity, that you saw money. It's not the money, but it gives you security, safety, stability.
Certainty.
Yes. And that you went, I'm never going to have this uncertainty. I'm going to do it differently.
Correct. And I can still... Now in my life, I can feel it. But there was a point, we went to go watch the drag racing one night, right? The cars. And it was all my cousins and my uncles, my dad, and we were all in this big Land Cruiser. And there was, 8 or 9 of us in this car. And we're driving out there, and they were saying, what sort of cars do you like? And, this guy liked Holdens, and this guy liked Fords. And it got to my turn. And I said, I like Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
Oh my gosh, aim high. Yes.
and they all started laughing. They were cackling at me. And I said, what's so funny? And they said, well, people like us We don't have cars like that.
Yes. Stay in your lane, Sam. Stay in your lane.
I said, what do you mean? I said, well, only rich people have cars like that. I said, that's fine. I'll get rich. I'll be rich. And they all sort of stopped. They stopped laughing. They stopped talking. And I realized, like, even then at that young age, that my mind did not function in the same manner as everyone else in that car, where this was who we are, this is who we're going to stay. And there was a problem. I didn't have those cars. I wanted them. Simple solution.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? But it that would have only happened because of that heartache that I had when I was younger, where I'd like so intently made the decision, like you did, that everything else is a byproduct of that. You just do after that. You just do the work.
It's like a mental pivot, isn't it? It's like a line in the sand where you just know, and everything thereafter, it's like a complete change in direction. You just know. It's like you know what's going to happen before it happens. I know that
so
sounds
weird.
strange,
so weird.
But it's like you just know.
Yes.
It just is.
Yes.
Like there's air there. We pay taxes. All of that. We just know this is what will be.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is great. This is fantastic. So when did you say, you know what, I'm going to Australia. See you guys later.
I was born here. So I was born. Yes.
way.
I'm an Aussie by birth. Aussie by birth. Yep. I was born in Brisbane and I was raised in my younger years in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I moved around more, honestly, from being homeless and having a dysfunctional family than anything like, oh, I was born in the US and raised over there. So I have actually lived in a number of countries and cities and places more because I had the instability from my childhood, and I couldn't even tell you how I ended up here, how I ended up there. It's just like...
It just happened.
Yeah, it just happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah. To me, that was just my life. I don't, and it's not until I think of myself at my age now and I look back, I'll go, who does that? Who does that? That makes no sense. But yeah, same as, the reason coming back to Australia, I was married, I was pregnant with my son, and it was, okay, well, New York City, I'm working so many jobs, and let's go somewhere where it will be safer and easier to start a family. And I kid you not, I was weighing up, do we go to Barcelona and raise a family there, or let's try Australia? It honestly was as simple as that. So it was weighing up, should we go to Spain? I'd never been to Barcelona before.
I was going to say, was it the language thing that got a little bit too hard?
No, because in New York City, there's a lot of Hispanic people.
So you pick up the lingo.
Spanish, yeah, it's the main language in New York.
Yeah,
so
right.
for most jobs in New York City, you have to be able to speak Spanish
Is that
and English.
true?
It's true.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a very common language. Yep. So whether it's Spanish, Portuguese, or variations. So the idea of going from New York to Barcelona, there was a bit of a connection there, the whole Spanish.
Right.
But I'd never been there. And I couldn't remember, I didn't know what it would be like to have a child and raise a family in Australia. And, but we came here. It's random. I know.
The further I go into this, the better it gets.
Go down the rabbit hole, Sam. Go down the rabbit hole.
I love New York. I love New York. We spent a month in the States when I got married. It was our honeymoon, and New York lives and breathes. Like that city is alive. I've never been to a place where the I don't know, the buildings, the streets, it's
energy.
It's crazy. What's it like living in a city like that that's just on 24 hours a day?
Oh, it teaches you a lot, honestly, about work ethic.
Yes.
Because the average New Yorker works very differently to the average Aussie. Like I was working 3 jobs. That was very normal. it's a hard life. It's a much harder life than here. And a lot of the things that I experienced in New York, people would go, that's like a movie. Like, surely that just happens in a movie. Like, you get caught in crossfire between gangs in the projects and police.
Wow.
You have to duck behind cars so you don't get shot.
Is that real? That happened?
Yeah, yes, 100%.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm just thinking about like Manly Beach, and that doesn't happen much there.
And before coming over to Australia to save money, to get, bulk money to come over here, myself and my husband at the time, we were parking cars for the mafia to go into certain clubs. They'd go into clubs, bars, restaurants to eat and that. And so there'd be valets for the mafioso cars. So we valeted for the mafioso because you get good tips. They tip really good. But they would drive, they drive expensive cars. So if you even bump their car, forget about it. And this is what I did. This is honestly what I did. And that was my life. But when I talk to people about it, they go, oh my goodness, your life has been like a movie. But when it's you and it's your life, it has the same pitfalls and highs and difficulties as the person next to you. It may sound different, but it still was. I was valeting for the mafioso, in the snow. I was pregnant. I was wearing like all these jackets.
This is the most freezing. New York thing I've ever heard ever in my life.
And it was freezing, and it was like, I need to make money for us to move to Australia. And I remember how freaking cold it was there. So that's just how it was. It was like hard. It was a tough life. But what it does is when you're used to living like that and you're opened up to that kind of way of living and that energy and that can-do attitude, you can take it anywhere. You can. Once you have that can-do attitude, Sam, you can apply it to everything. It's like I live and breathe in my DNA. It's growth, evolution, innovation, can do. I'm not always succeeding. I'm not always, happy, wonderful, but it's you pick yourself up and you can do and you move forward. And that never fails me. It's just always there. It's that innovate, change, adapt. So when I said at the start of this, I'm a change agent, that's me. Honestly, I live and breathe innovation and improvement. And how do I improve this for the greater good? How do I make this person's life easier? And I feel like I was given a gift and some purpose with my brain. I don't know how I got intelligent, but I got that. And so it's my job in this life, it is my job to use that to help serve people to improve their lives. So it's that innovation to help make the world a better place. And I've just applied it in what I do for work.
I love that because it's not even, you're obligated to do it.
I'm obligated.
Do you know what I mean? Like
100%.
You owe it to the world to
100%.
do something useful. You know what I mean?
Serving. And I believe that's my why. 100% that's my why.
I love that. I have one question before we move on because you said something really, really interesting about the way New Yorkers hustle and work compared to Australians.
Yes.
Do you think, given the competitive nature and the work ethic for New Yorkers, if you got 10,000 New Yorkers, plonked them in Sydney and had them attack an industry, would they outpace? They would, wouldn't they?
Is this a trick question?
No, they would, wouldn't they?
They would.
They would. Yeah. They would run rings
it's
around.
It's the mindset.
Yeah.
The mindset. It's not just ambition. It's not money or that. It's the mindset. It's the can do. It's the striving to deliver. Yeah, they would. And it's just because with Aussies, we have it good. We
Yeah,
have
lifestyle.
a great minimum wage. I know Aussies moan about things. We're known to be moaners about things. But we've got it good. We really do. We have it pretty cushy. And we've got Centrelink and all these, support systems in place. So we really do have, we're the lucky country we are. But what that does, honestly, it breeds a bit of complacency. It breeds that, she'll be right, mate. It's okay. So it doesn't breed that push out of your comfort zone because everything's comfortable and it's easy and, life's great.
I know what you mean. That's why I had to ask the questions because, like, when I went there and I left there so inspired, just like the buildings and the history behind New York, and that's when I actually came back to Australia and decided I was going to get into finance. So there was a lot of change.
So it was like the
massive
impetus.
Yeah, I was like looking there and I was reading about these people, the Empire State Building, and they're building all this cool shit. I was like, man, look at these guys. Like, look what they've done. Look what they've accomplished. And I said to Elise, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try conquer the industry. I'm going to go back and try to take over finance. And that's why I asked. Like, if you got those, you got those peoples and you let them out of the cage here in Australia, they'd very quickly gobble it up, I think.
That's it. So it's actually, I feel it's easier, honestly, for me to succeed here than it is in the US. I really mean that.
Really?
Yeah, I think it is.
Why? This is so interesting.
Because there's less competition, because no one really wants to push out of the comfort zone. They're so happy to just ride their life through,
The Australian way. She should be right.
So the very fact that there's the Australian way allows me to succeed. But also, it's also tall poppy syndrome. Because you know what?
You don't have that in the States.
It's not in the US. But you know what it does? It polarizes people and it makes them talk about you.
Yes.
So who cares if they're like, oh, we don't like that girl with the American accent and whatever she's talking about. I hate her. She's really opinionated. You know what? It polarizes people and they'll love you or they hate you. But you know what? They talk about you.
Yes.
They talk about you. And I'm like, so give me the tall poppy syndrome as well. And go, don't give up your day job, kitty, or don't whatever. And it's like, don't worry, I'll run with that as well. I'll use that as fuel for me to succeed even more because it makes people talk about you.
Yes.
You're not forgettable. You're not like the wallpaper. They'll have an opinion about you. I don't care whether people like me or not, but they'll have an opinion.
Well, they reckon that's what good marketing is. They reckon good marketing, it's supposed to reflect and attract. And if you're not doing that, your marketing's probably not not aggressive enough. This is so good. I could talk all day. All right. And then you're here in Sydney, in business.
Yes.
Property advocate.
Yes.
How did that journey start for you, today's business?
Okay, so let's take it from... Financial advisor has this idea. I set up my website, and next minute it goes gangbusters.
Yes.
I think what has made Kitty and Miles do well is that the real estate industry, let's just say, could do with a makeover. I'm being very PC here.
Yes.
But it could do with a bit of a makeover.
Tell me.
And so when you have someone that steps in and really is authentic and wants to help buyers buy their property, cheaper, faster, better. You want to do the heavy lifting for your clients and really streamline that process. And when you really honestly want to serve these buyers and do that, and the outcome deliverables you keep nailing, like we've got 100% success rate. So literally every client that comes through, that signs up, that goes through my process, you'll come out with a property. And there's something about that advocacy that I think people can see. And I think that's what's made it do well. That I'm still honing my craft. I feel like we're always forever learning. but I've honed my craft now I can take someone end to end, like they can sign up. And to the point where we're exchanging contracts on a property, I will nail that within 4 weeks. And that's because I've removed all the distraction, all the irrelevancy. I know the market. I have my network. I have my secret formulas as to what to do, when and how. And I can get them through that in under 4 weeks. A lot of the time I can get them through that in under a week, but I don't want to oversell that. So I go, under 4 weeks.
From signed to property done, exchanged.
Okay, I'll talk about a client that I'm literally doing right now.
Yes.
Family came to me, young Vietnamese, Chinese brothers, and their parents were selling a home on the South Coast. And the sale had gone through and they're just starting the settlement period. They're like, oh my goodness, my parents are moving up to Sydney. We're going to get the mortgage in our name and we're going to live together in a house. We're inquiring with buyer's agents because this is quite particular. We need this home quick. We don't really know Sydney well. We don't know where we want to live, but somehow we're going to need help to find a place and secure this before settlement. And the brother that I was speaking to was like, can your firm do this? Like, can you do this? I go, don't worry. I can do this. I got you. I can do this. And he was like, are you sure? So he signed up on, I'm not exaggerating here. He signed up on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and we had his property by the following Tuesday.
1 week later, done.
Yeah, done. So they're in their cooling off period. We did this one private treaty. They've got their cooling off period. And we're even going to negotiate bringing settlement forward a bit so it just matches with their parents' property. But the fact that they're like, oh my goodness, we can now potentially bring the new place in Sydney, the settlement for that forward, because we've actually got a place and, my parents can move from there, maybe have a couple of days in between, and then we move into the new place. And they were like, we never in a million years thought that this was possible.
You could do it like that.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because in that scenario, there were so many things that were important to the client that were outside of what people think is important when you're dealing with real estate.
100%. So it's not just about, can you find our property? It was me having to chat with the clients going, okay, this is going to be multi-generational living. We need to future-proof this home. Like your parents are going to be elderly one day. We can't have 500 stairs or this or whatnot. So I knew that it was a very particular brief, but it was also you have a number of personalities to satisfy. So it's not just about, we're looking for X number of bedrooms and bathrooms and we're happy. It's, mum likes cooking, dad likes gardening. One of the brothers has to commute every day, so it needs to be near a train station. Everyone has their own little bits and bobs to add, as well as their style preferences. And somehow you have to coordinate all these personalities and make every single person happy and not one of them feel like they're settling. None of them compromised. None of them settled. Every single one, the box was ticked. And I mean, these are not, the dad was not an easy personality. He was a loud Vietnamese. He knew what he wanted. He came with the tape measure. He was in there. He's like, right. So you've got all these different personalities and you're needing to make everyone happy as well as make this a really efficient purchase.
And you got all these pieces of the puzzle that you need to put together. There's one word that keeps coming to mind. It's like emotional intelligence. How much do you think that comes into play over traditional intelligence?
Yes, it's understanding human behavior.
Yes,
100%.
And that's your background.
Yes. If someone were to say, what is the one thing you bring, Kitty, to your business that is different to any other buyer's agent? And it's the ability to honestly read intuitively a person's needs and be able to meet the needs of that specific property buyer. And sometimes people will say, yep, I know what I want. I want this and this and that. Here's my brief. and I'll chat to them and get to know them a bit. And then I'll be like, hang on a minute. I'm going to like put this on the table here. You can tell me I'm completely wrong, but I'm getting a feel for this or this or this. Are you sure you want that? Or are you more leaning towards this? And then they're like, oh, goodness, you're right. It's so good you picked up on that. So it really is reading the person. Yep, part of it is strategy. Part of it is really good negotiation skills, really good networks with agents, all of auction bidding. Yep, they're all the technical aspects.
Yeah, they're tactics.
They're tactics, but you're right. It's emotional intelligence. It's understanding how to meet someone's needs. And empathy, like genuinely wanting to meet their needs and hearing honestly what their pain points are and how I can best support that person with that property buy. The number of people that go, oh, I can do this myself, don't worry, I understand property, I get it, you know, everything's just available out there online.
It's not how it works.
You don't know what you don't know.
That's what I was about to say.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
You don't know that, you know, the auction price guide on domain.com.au is really a marketing tactic used by a sales agent.
It's going to sell for $500,000 more and he's
to
bringing
get
in
as
5
many
more buyers.
bodies in to look at those open inspections. That's not what the property's worth. But if you think that's what it's worth, you're going to go down the garden path. You're going to rock up at auction. It's going to sell for X amount over. You're going to be outbid. And if you think that that's your strategy and that you can just go and buy, that's why you're looking for 12 months.
And this is the thing, Kitty. This is the thing. They think they're saving buyers agents fees, and you know what? Today it's a bit of a weak market. But if you tried that trick over the past 3 years, and you're waiting 12 months, you're paying 25% more for that property. You're now paying an extra $750,000 for that piece of real estate because you were indecisive and you couldn't make a move. Why do you think that when you're talking to people and they think they know what they want, but it's not exactly what they want, where do you think that stems from, where there's the disconnect between what they actually want and what they think they want before they start working with you?
I think because buying a home, good question, by the way. Buying a home is, you know, it's probably the largest purchase anyone will make. Even an investment property, still a large dollar value purchase. And so I think what people try and do when they know they're going to apply that much money, they try and be really rational. Yep. I have to be very rational about this. And so they go, yep, what do I want? And it might be, you know, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It's all about the technicalities. And they often forget that they can't remove, we're human beings. As much as we say we're going to be ruthless, even for an investment purchase, we're going to remove our emotions and it's all about the money. Whether it be an owner-occupier purchase or an investor purchase, people are humans. The emotions come into it. With an owner-occupier, it's more obvious. It's more salient. They'll get drawn to something. And sales agents know how to market and swing stuff to hook you, right? So you think you're being rational. No, you're not. Even when you think you are, right? Trust me, your head leads you on. When it comes to investor, these are the best ones, investor buyers. No, it's all about the money. It's all about the figures. My emotions aren't coming into it. Maybe not your emotions in the way as an owner-occupier, but your biases are coming into it. Because if you are biased towards, for example, land and houses against apartments, or if you're biased towards, without realizing it, and there's this great buy and the apartment may have kind of average carpet, average paint, but be in a really good location, but maybe it just doesn't look sexy, right? Investors will be like, oh, I don't really like that. No, I'm not really into it. And it's like, it's not about what you like. It doesn't matter. But so they'll bring their biases in and trying to train them to go, just look at the numbers. this particular property works in this location. In another location, it may not work, but for this particular suburb or city or location, this is a really strong purchase, and you will get the growth, excellent, solid growth here. But sometimes people can't remove themselves from their biases. So it's less about that obvious owner occupier fall in love kind of thing, and just things like, oh, well, the laundry's kind of in the bathroom. Like, that seems a little bit like second rate. But maybe that's in a city like Adelaide, where pretty much everyone has their laundries in their bathroom and no one cares. And it's really the done thing there. Or another one is, I think of off the top of my head, Canberra, where I've had people go, oh, I don't really like that carpet. Shouldn't it have floorboards? Because in Sydney, everyone loves floorboards. Canberra gets freezing freaking cold.
It's cold.
Yes. So carpeted living areas is actually what tenants like.
Yes.
So if you put your mind into the people there, where it will be tenanted, etc., you're actually able to get a better feel for what works there. The clients can't leave behind their perspective, their biases, and that. So I actually think human beings are really irrational, and they will struggle to purchase on their own. I have a client at the moment who is desperate for a particular property, and she's come to me, this is my budget. I don't want it to go to auction. I don't want to miss out. I really want this. I'll throw all this money at it. Right? And I've literally had a conversation with the agent, a very transparent conversation with the agent because I know them. And I went, right, we both know in this area, most people that have purchased in 2017, 2018, 2019, they're going to run at a loss if they sell now. So I know what you're asking for this. I know what it's worth. How do we meet in the middle here? Your vendors need to sell. They're going to cop a loss. There's no two ways about it. And then he goes, yeah, we're actually trying to not cop a loss. Like, we're trying to get above that so the vendors even break even.
That's not how markets work. That's not going to happen. That's not how markets work.
That's not going to happen, right? So your vendors are going to cop a loss. I'm going to buy this for my client, but we're going to try and meet halfway here where your vendors are happy and you're happy, but my client's going to get a good deal here. But if my client had gone, oh, the market's dropped, I can do this myself. Why do I need a buyer's agent now? She would have gone in and paid, I'm trying to calculate the equivalent, 5% more for this property than she needs to. And maybe to some people, they go 5%, that's nothing.
It's your fees 3 times.
It's my fees 3 times.
That's what I mean.
Totally.
Yes,
So she's come to me, and I'm not only getting it quicker for her, and I know the agent, and I'm going to we're not even going to go to auction. So I'm just going to make sure she's 100% getting this property. So there's no competition now. I am removing all competition for her. But she's also going to get it way cheaper. She would have gone to auction or done this and just thrown her money thinking, oh, well, the agent has guided this. I want it. This is all reasonable. And no, we can actually get it cheaper. I can get it quicker. And this is in a market like now, let alone last year, where forget about it. Last year was a market in and of itself. But people now are like, well, why would I need help now when the market has, dropped? I can do this myself. Why would I pay someone? And it's like, the clients that have actually paid me to assist them, the return on their investment is at least threefold. But how do you quantify time? Instead of someone spending a year and taking weekends and missing out at auctions and all the due diligence and paying for contract reviews, end to end, under 4 weeks, done. You have your weekends back. You don't have to trawl online or go to open inspections. But I get it. Aussies still have that, I can do it myself. I can do it myself.
We are going to get absolutely stuck into that. That was going to be my next question. But I agree with you, right? So I've been in property since I was 18. I was 18 when I bought my first property, and I've been around real estate my whole life. Friends, family, business partners, team, my businesses, I'm entrenched in the real estate market, right?
Yeah.
I don't buy my own property. I engage a buyer's agent because they do a better job of it. When I bought my home that I'm currently in, I went there once. I said, this is the one. And I left. I went home. And then that was it. That was my 15-minute involvement of the largest transaction I'd ever had in my life. And this is coming from someone who knows the game, who's in it. I don't know. You can't do it yourself. You can't. You can, but you shouldn't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can get
but you think you can, and you don't know what you don't know. So you'll have, Joe Blow down the street that goes, well, I brought my home for, I don't know, however much, and I negotiated a good deal.
Yeah, 1962.
How do you know you negotiated a good deal? How do you
paid
know
30 grand for it? All the houses were 30 grand, mate.
Or how do you know that particular house that you paid 30 grand for, maybe it was the dud in the street and it was really only worth 20 grand, but you're just going through your life going, no, I bought well. You don't know.
The agent had it for 40, so he thought he got it at a steal at 30 when it was worth 20.
This is it, exactly. Yeah. And people don't know, but they think they do. And it's like, what other industry do people honestly that have no working day-to-day experience in? And how many times in someone's life do they buy property generally? A couple of times generally in their whole lifespan. But somehow they come in and go, I can do it without the need of a professional. It's like me saying with my car, why would I take it to a mechanic to get serviced? Surely I can just do this myself. Well, hang on a minute. I have something wrong with my knee. Why don't I just, diagnose myself and you get me? And it's like, you laugh at that. But this is people throwing, especially in Sydney, millions. I can do it myself. And it's like, are you crazy? Of course you can't do it yourself. But they go, see, I did it. And it'd be like me servicing my car and maybe changing some oil or something. And the car switches on. I drive down the road,
It's fine.
It's fine. But a mechanic could look at it and go, oh my God, you realize you've put the brake fluid and mixed it with the oil or whatever. And in 6 months, this is all going to go to But I'm like, hey, I turned the engine on. It's driving. Surely I've done a good job. Hey, I bought that house. The bank gave me a loan for it. I've done a good job. And they just don't know.
They don't know. And I say this all the time, and you might be about to school me on this because I might be making it up. But it might be increasingly frustrating for you because the American market, everyone uses a buyer's agent. The way that in the Australian market, everyone has a seller's agent. In America, everyone's got a buyer's agent. Everyone's got a seller's agent. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I've been telling people that and I didn't want to be a liar.
It's a done thing.
Yes.
Because the sales agent is working for the seller.
Yes.
And then they have a buyer's agent that is working for the buyer.
Yes.
And so obviously, to me, that makes sense. The seller's going to be the selling agent's going to be advocating for their vendor, and the buyer's agent's going to be advocating for their buyer. And so that's the person that either does the sourcing, does the negotiations, etc. They're the professionals that work on behalf of their respective clients to get the best outcome for their respective clients.
Well, it makes sense because you've got two professionals meeting, right? And then each representing their own thing. It's like if someone had a lawyer and someone didn't have a lawyer. But in Australia, it does seem a little bit weird that the seller, the vendor's got a professional representing them, and then they're dealing with amateurs. Do you know what I mean? Where it makes more sense to have a professional deal with a professional, and the two civilians, I guess you'd call them, can stay on the sideline. Yes. So, are you doing mostly stuff here in Sydney, or are you doing stuff away from Sydney? Are you doing homeowner stuff, investment stuff? Where's sort of the sweet spot that you're working in?
The whole lot. So my company. So I have specialists in different areas.
Yes.
But it's a small team because I'm a little bit fussy. I'm about quality over quantity. I want my clients to receive the best. So I have a small team, but we can cover anywhere in the country. Where do we predominantly purchase? I'm Sydney based. We cover the whole of Sydney and even peripheral areas. We buy a lot if we're thinking of outside Sydney, Central Coast, interstate buys are often for investor clients that want to diversify their portfolio, or they may have certain requirements. Like you'll often find that buying outside of Sydney, it's easier to positively gear or neutrally gear a property. So if a client has, say, an entry-level budget, or they have a requirement where they can't have a shortfall each month, or they can't top up the mortgage, or for tax reasons, it doesn't make sense that they do negatively gear, then usually it'll be me recommending somewhere outside of Sydney, depending on their deposit amount and all that. But often there'll be better options outside of Sydney or New South Wales. So we cover various areas. We've got our fingers in all pies. And that's very much to help. It's not because we just want to have our fingers in all pies. It's because every client has a very bespoke situation. And so what we do is we take the outcome requirements of that particular client and work backwards. So we'll work out a strategy of what, where, and how to purchase based on what the actual outcome needs are of the client. And you'd be surprised how many clients come along and go, yep, I want to invest in property and this is what I want. And I go, okay, what are your outcome needs? And sometimes you'll have people whose outcome needs are completely different to what they say they want to buy. To put that into actual, like an example, someone may say, I want to buy, I've got a budget of 800K. I want to buy an apartment in Sydney. I want to buy in a particular suburb. This is what I want. Thank you very much, Kitty. And I go, right, what's your situation? Or I'm a single mom and I have my primary residence through my divorce. I've got a little bit of funds here. And so, I want to leave a legacy for my kids. I want this investment property. Okay. So how much can you put in per month to top up the mortgage on this property? Oh, I can't do that. I'm a single mum. I'm working, one job and I need to spend time with, little Johnny and Jill.
Yes.
No, this property needs to pay for itself. And I go, right, how much deposit are you putting down? Oh, I'm using the equity of my home. So you're putting down no deposit. You're borrowing 100%.
110%.
Yeah. So I'm borrowing 100%. Okay. And then I'll actually need to walk the person through and go, do you realize your actual situation and what you're saying you want? That just doesn't gel. Those pieces of the puzzle do not fit together. And I have to educate someone on rental yields in Sydney for apartments, what the anticipated rental yield is, how much repayments are on their loan, and how all the outgoings will equal X amount. But that rental yield, that rent you're bringing in, that's not going to cover all of that.
No way.
So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to be stuck with a shortfall each month that you're going to have to top up. Oh, interest rates, let's say they were 2.8% at that time, and interest rates are going to go up. What are you going to do then when even more that shortfall per month becomes an extra $500 a month, an extra this? And then suddenly that single mom's like, oh crap, I need to reassess this. Like, yeah. So I could just sign you up and I could go, what? Yeah, you want me to buy you this? Yep, I can do that.
Done.
But I want to do the right thing by you and make sure what you want to buy is actually going to fit your life situation, deliver what you want, and not going to lead you to financial stress. Because what you're saying you want to do, I could buy that for you. You're going to be up creek. You're going to be so far up creek, but you'll be up creek long after I'm gone, long after I've bought you that property. In the next 2 years, you're going to be up creek. I can't do that. So let's work together. And often what I'll do is I'll try and realign their goals. And they'll be like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Like, I'm so glad, I've got you to help with this. So again, people don't know what they don't know. That single mum could have gone and gotten her loan on her home and gone and bought that apartment and gone, yep, this is great, this is wonderful, get a tenant in there. And after a month or two, she's realizing she has to top up that mortgage and interest rates go up.
Rates have doubled.
And next minute she's like, holy
yes.
now we can't go away on that family holiday, or we can't Uber Eat, or we can't do these things. I have to really reduce my lifestyle because I have to top up that mortgage. And then after 12 months, it's like, I can't do this anymore.
And
or what do I do?
The market's weak. Cash flow's tight.
I
She
have to
sells out, liquidate.
Make a loss.
You made a loss 15%.
You know, you get it. Finance. And this poor woman is up creek.
Yeah.
People don't know what they don't know.
They don't know. And this, you're 100%. I'm listening to this story and it's just like, yep. And I think we take it for granted being like in the game and having this knowledge and having this understanding of how it works, because Sydney will do fine for capital growth over time.
Yep.
But if that lady, that in the example, can't hold it through the cycles and she has to liquidate at the wrong time, she's going to do her ass.
Stuffed.
Is stuffed. Yeah. And we know that. Do you know? So it's a really simple solution. But her at the start saying, I want to buy this apartment, I want to have this legacy, with the absolute best intentions of doing a fantastic thing for her family. She just didn't know what she didn't know. Her knowledge didn't extend to the point where the theory behind it was right, but the strategy had to be crafted a little bit different.
Yes.
And for you, Kitty, and you've obviously in that situation, you've done the right thing, right? You've seen this and you've said, nah, there's a better way for you to achieve the goal
100%.
that you're after. That sort of internal dialogue, right, where you operate with someone's best interest at heart, not everyone's like that. Do you think that can be taught, or do you think that's an intrinsic thing? Because some people are ruthless, Kitty.
I think it's a moral compass.
A moral compass.
I think it's ethics, character, because I could just take someone's money and say, I'm a buyer's agent and that's okay. This is what she came to me for. I'll buy her that and then say, check you later. I really do see clients as, and I think this is good business sense, it's a lifelong relationship.
100%.
So they may come to me that one time and I'll serve them then, but I want to maintain that relationship. So I want to know when they next want to buy property, or in 3 years' time when one of their relatives wants to buy property, that they will recommend me or come back to me. And the only way they will come back to me year after year, time and time again, is if after that transaction, the year after, 2 years after, etc., my word has meant something and that property has performed, or things have played out within reason according to how I said they would. So it's not in a bubble, a transaction. It's how have things played out. We're looking at the long game. And so that's what I do. I have seen, I'm going to open up a can of worms here. I have seen over the last 2 years, the number of people jumping on the buying Queensland option. Because, there's high capital growth and, oh my goodness, Queensland, hotspot, Brisbane, we can get this beautiful home that's near new for like 500,000-600,000. Oh my goodness, we can't get anything like that in Sydney. Let's get that as an investment property because, there's 10% yield. This is wonderful, yada, 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 right? Off the plan. You know where I'm going with this. And but buyer's agents have helped them buy. I've seen people come to me with portfolios that are and they've gone, oh yeah, actually I had a buyer's agent help me buy that a year or so ago. So I'm a little bit nervous about engaging a buyer's agent again because, they told me, buy here, this is the yield. Oh, you'll make passive income, Okay, they have made a bit of passive income. We can tick that one. Right?
Yeah, they're down to
when
5%.
The property is tenanted, right? When it's tenanted. So it's not even tenanted the whole year. When it's tenanted, yep, they make their rental yield, but often they'll have tenants or there'll be damage done to a property or whatnot. But let's park that. Let's look at the capital growth. So they've bought for 500-600K and, 3 years on, that property's worth 400K. And it's been a buy. But that buyer's agent has made their fee. And that buyer's agent has bought them a property, signed off, happy client, happy buyer's agent. There might even be a nice little smiley picture there of the client standing in front of the sold sign and everyone looks happy. But come back to that client 2 or 3 years later, how do they feel?
They've had
I'm
no
sick
progress.
of these client buys, I'm so opening up a Pandora's box. But I'm sick of seeing these client buys, happy client, we got them this and this is the rental yield and yeah, they're happy. Don't tell me how happy they are now. I want to see how happy they are in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time. How has that property performed for them? Would they at that point in time come back and buy off you again? Or would they feel like they were stitched up? That's what I want to know. Because my clients, I want them to come back again and again. And I want those properties to perform over time. And even for owner-occupiers, I don't want them coming back in a few years' time going, oh, we ended up having like really bad waterproofing problems and it kind of was noted on the building and pest inspection report, but you kind of just went, oh, don't worry about that. It's not a big deal.
Glazed over it.
I want to make sure that it's paying it forward, that what I sign off on to the very best of my ability is going to deliver for my client in the long term. Yep, there'll always be cases where there's unforeseen situations, but to the very best of my ability, I want to sleep at night, I want a clear conscience, good moral compass.
And it turns out that is actually fantastic for business, doing the right thing, you know what I mean, and getting good results. I've calmed down about it over the past few years, but I used to bang on a lot about the off the plan stuff and the the buyer's agents that weren't really buyer's agents. They were selling developers stock. Yep. That's more of a sales agent, sort of masquerading as an advisor. And we've seen some clients that have bought property 10 years ago, long before they met us, right? Yep. Through some of these schemes. And they're still underwater. They're still down 20, 30, 40%. They can't refinance. They can't sell. They're just stuck with this property. And when you are investing in real estate, you're making a really big bet. Yep. Like the actual dollar figure is a large bet, and you have to get it right, And that's... How do you think... What can someone do? How do they know that they can trust the person that's giving them the advice, Kitty?
This is a really good question. I think a lot of people assume, if I go to a buyer's agent or a financial advisor, there are some boxes to tick that will make it obvious. In my mind, they're the things that are irrelevant. So what I mean by this is people will say, are they a member of a professional association? Are they experienced in the area? Are they, how many properties have you purchased for people in the last year? To me, they're so irrelevant. They're not going to distinguish the great professional from the average one. To me, and I've actually, for a financial advisor came to me one day and said, Kitty, what questions, if ever I'm dealing with buyer's agents interstate or whatnot, because I'm not territorial. I'm like, you go with whomever you want. I go, these are a couple of the questions to ask. And one I would always ask is, what percentage of your client base are repeat clients?
Yes, because that shows high levels of satisfaction.
Long-term relationship, high-level satisfaction. So I would ask, what percentage are repeat clients? What else would as silly as this may sound, Google reviews, online reviews. Yes. Honestly, if someone is a bit dodgy, a charlatan, a bit, this is just a transaction, etc., often the easiest thing someone can do is Google that person and look for that social proof. Because their website may look all glamorous and nice, and they may have testimonials on their website that say how great they are. I don't know why people put testimonials on their own website. I could write anything. I could be like, Bob and Jill said Kitty Park is great. Google, look, can people have fake Google reviews? They can. I've heard that as well.
Yes.
But generally speaking, if you Google search someone, if they're a dodgy mofo, something will come up there, Sam. It will come up there.
Even if it's not their Google review, even if the world's very well connected now. There could be other
Yes.
things. Do you know what I mean? If there's court cases or there's this or there's
Yes.
other things.
I agree.
You see, most consumers these days would have a bit of a look online. I suspect.
Yes. So number one, you want to ask how many clients of your client base are repeat clients. Number two, let your fingers do the walking on Google. You'd be surprised how much Google can, unravel for you and find the deepest dark, either media stuff or whatnot. What would be another one? I'm trying to think. What would be a third? Do you have any? Actually, I'll swing this over to you. Do you have any criteria that you feel clients in finance should ask to or know to vet who is great and who's just, same old, same old?
Oh, let's talk about the mortgage industry. I think the most important thing when dealing with a mortgage broker, it would probably be wanting to know if that broker deals with those sorts of clients.
Got you.
I think that's a super important thing because the finance industry is very, very
Yes.
niche, right? It's very niche, and if you deal with retirees, or if you deal with first home buyers, or commercial real estate,
Or business owners. Yeah.
or property investors,
Yeah.
or refinances, there's a broker can do all of those things, one broker. But all of them have their own niches.
Yeah.
And if you get someone who's just a gun at property investment, then that's probably who you'd want to be doing
Yes.
writing your property
Got
investment
you.
loans. Or if you've got a guy who does business loans and your residential home loan guy, mum and dad, shouldn't be dabbling in those business loans. So I think having someone with a proven niche would probably be my best advice.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
What do you think? I'm going to ask you a question now, Sam. So what do you think also about how much weight does word of mouth business, how much weight do you think that would carry? As in, do you think a business that has a high proportion of word of mouth referrals and business, would that hold weight for you? Probably. I'm not asking this, I think, very well. I'll drill down to it. I think a business that has a high percentage of word of mouth business tends to have vetted their reputation well. And if I were a new customer to that business, I would feel if they have a high proportion of word of mouth business, there's a lot of trust there. Obviously, they've done something well. People that are out there constantly drumming up new business, I understand if you're a new business, everyone has to do that. But if a business is drumming up new business and they're 5 to 10 years into the game, to me, I don't want to say that's a warning sign, but I would feel more comfortable working with a business where the majority of their customers come through word of mouth. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that in mortgage broking, finance, etc., is that relevant as well?
100%. So we've seen this out in our own business journey, right? Where at the start, you didn't have existing clients, you didn't have existing partners, and because you had no existing clients, you didn't have any client referrals. So at the start, you hustle, like you're in. We call it street fighter mode, where you just you get some leads from wherever you can, you know what I mean? You run Facebook ads and you go door knocking and you get on the phones and you just do all these things to drum up the business. And that was kindling on the fire, right? To get it started. But then over time, as a business matures, you've got your existing client base, you've got partners who have done business with you, and then you've got your client referrals. And those three things end up becoming the largest source of new business because it's a transfer of trust. The existing clients come back to you for more business because you've done really good business for them.
Yep.
They absolutely love you. You've got your partners who you've helped their clients. So they're like...
So you make them look good.
You
By
make
you
them-
helping their
well,
clients.
we-
You make them look like they're a great business because their relationships with other businesses, they're solid other businesses.
Well, we've got a motto that if we've got a partner that refers us business, we have to make them look like a superhero.
Yep.
That's the minimum standard. Make your partner a superhero. And then you've got the client referrals, which is a transfer of class from one client to another. So I think that in a mature business, that's a very good sign. Right, because that business can now sustain itself under its own weight just from doing its thing really well, right? But I would still be jumping on Google, and I'd still be checking out those reviews, and I'd still be looking at that social proof, because it's. Like I've been burnt in the past. I've been introduced to someone. I'd done some business with them because I really trusted the person who I got introduced who introduced us. And they both ended up burning. We ended up in court with them.
Wow.
Because I basically paid for a service. They took the money and ran off into the abyss. And if I only would have just Googled beforehand, I would have seen that this guy was a bit of a shonk. So even if there is a transfer of trust, that's 99% of the battle, but your last 1%, go check them out online and just make sure that they're not animals.
Because some of the best hustlers are the best talkers.
Yes.
They're the best talkers. So they go, ooh, let's build up trust. Ooh, because Joe over here loves me too, and Jack over here. And you go, wow, this is great. But you're right. All you need to do is Google. Then you find that person is a bit shonky. And you're like, you're just a fast talker.
Correct. Yeah. And look, most people today, like even us as examples, right? Most people, if you went on social media or if you went on Google, you'd be able to find us. You'd have to, have to have a bit of a, you could have a bit of a poke around and sort of see who we are. And I think a lot of business people are like that today. I think there's probably a little bit of a window to look into someone that didn't exist, 20 years ago.
Yep.
So make most of it, I guess.
Do you think that means then that businesses that operate nowadays, because we have the digital age and it's so much easier to stalk people and track people and do your detective work, that it's harder for people to be shonky these days or not? What are your thoughts?
100%. Like you were talking before about the mafia, right? It thrived in a analog world with like uneducated people, fear, power. It couldn't thrive as much today.
Yes.
Because people are educated, people are not fearful. There's the technologies. You can't do anything. Like our phones, they're listening to us, Kitty. And if anyone wanted to listen to this conversation, they can hear every single word of it.
Yep.
Where that just wasn't a thing a while ago. So I think it is. I think it does make it harder. And I think industries are becoming more professional as well, real estate, finance, and a lot of the the Wild West, the cowboy sort of guys are leaving if they haven't left already. And it's only like real professionals that are sort of left in the game. But there's always
one.
There's
bad
always
egg,
one. So you
isn't
just got to
there?
protect yourself from the one bad egg.
Yep, I agree.
What's the future hold for you, Kitty?
What does the future hold for me? I really want to reach as many people as I can, consumers. I have like a vision to really almost like make my own business redundant. I really mean this, to make my own business redundant and help property buyers to help themselves, because I feel like there is such a lack of publicly available accurate information for property buyers. And I'm like, I just want to start putting stuff out there and really level that playing field to put the power back into property buyers' hands. So I'm starting, I've been a buyer's agent, I have my company, but now it's like that next level, like what do I want to do next?
Yes.
And I see myself moving into more, I don't want to say thought leadership, but really education and consumer education and workshops and conferences and doing things to really help buyers buy for themselves in under 4 weeks, buy for themselves in under 6 weeks, to really level. So almost like sharing I don't want to say secret formula. It sounds like so hustling, but sharing what I've learned through and the craft that I've honed, and teaching other people my little secret bits and pieces to make it easier for them. And so really changing the game in the consumer space of buying property. And then I'm sure there'll be a pay it forward of moving into housing affordability, helping solve the housing problem, things like that, like more policy and government related. That's where I think I'll head. What about you? Where do you see yourself?
I think I'll continue on the same track. I decided a number of years ago that I couldn't be all things to all people, and I couldn't be the best at everything. So I said, what are the two things that I really want out of life? And I basically drilled it down to wanting to be a good family man and wanting to be a good businessman. Yep. And they're basically my two passions, my two pursuits. And I'm going to take that as far as I can.
Yeah.
So see, how much when I say family, I mean my family, my friends, the community, right? See how much of an impact I can make in my personal life, at whatever level I can continue pursuing.
Yeah.
And then professionally, I set a lofty target. I said I wanted to take over the finance industry in Australia. I don't know what that means yet, Kitty.
Yeah.
But I do know that I'm the only one in my way of that, so I'll keep pushing that to see whatever unfolds as I keep picking up the stones. So it's just like a never-ending story. Keep pushing it until I'm old and grey, I guess.
Yep. And then it's just keep pushing, and you may not know what the plan is now, but the plan, it'll fall into your lap. You'll have, sometimes you don't know why, but you don't need to know exactly what that end result will be. You just need to know what keeps moving you forward.
For
now.
Keeping that
and then the picture, becomes clearer as you move forward.
As you get closer to it.
Yeah.
Kitty, this has been so good. I've never sat across from someone on the show who's like, you're like a mirror image of me. Oh. It's super weird. Considering we only met an hour and a half ago.
100%.
I've never had that before. It's super cool. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely amazing. Hopefully I can swindle you back onto the show one day.
Anytime, Sam. If there's anything else I can share, yes.
No, that was amazing. Guys, I hope that you all really enjoyed the episode with Kitty Parker. She's amazing, had heaps of cool stuff to say.
Thanks for having me, Sam.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. We're gonna try swindle her back onto the show one day in the future. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.